Hello everyone, happy Saturday. Welcome back to our Saturday Anything Goes series. You'll notice I have 3 stamp sets in front of me, and some are from the brand new catalog, that's Winter Woods, the annual catalog, Rooted in Nature, and then we have an oldie but goodie, Lovely as a Treat. And I love the fact that we have all of these stamps to choose from and that they work so well together. And we're definitely going to be using them today. But what are we going to be doing today? Not just making a card, although, yeah, we will get around to making a card of sorts. But did you guys buy the copper tins back when, what did this come out with? The Time for Tea, I think, pre-order. I love them. And they're really nice to decorate and to fill with treats. But I made some 3.5 by 3.5 inch cards to fit inside. And it even fits the envelopes that I made to go with them. And I used 2 of the 3 stamp sets we talked about. So this one came from Winter Woods. This one came from Rooted in Nature. And then we're going to make one more card to fit in the tin. And we'll use the, this came from Lovely as a Treat. We'll use the Rooted in Nature stamp set to complete the sets. It's going to be very easy to do. But before we do that, I thought we would talk about the tin. Because yes, it's a pretty tin, but looks kind of naked. I think it needs some decorating. And even though I got this to go with my Time for Tea stamp set and die set, look at how well it goes with our new Joyous Noel papers. These have the copper accents in them. So what better DSP to decorate our tin with than just that? And you can see that I could have chosen any of these and it would have gone well. But I narrowed it down to 2 strips, and I'm not sure which one we're going to use. So, I mean, they're both really pretty. And it's really easy to decorate the tin as far as cutting the DSP. You just need a 3-inch by 12-inch strip. And that will wrap around and leave just enough of a lip in the back to give you some place to attach it to. So we could use this, which is awfully pretty, or we could use something that has a bit more color in it. Either one are perfect for winter scenes. And to embellish, we are going to put a sentiment on the front. And then we've got all kinds of choices for what kind of ribbon we want to use with this. We have our copper, and I'm really leaning towards that. But since if I do use the DSP that has the shaded spruce, we have that metallic ribbon that would look oh so pretty with it as well. If you wanted it to be a little more girly, you knew you were giving this to a female friend, then we could break out our mini ruffled ribbon in, I think this is the Tranquil Tide. So lots of choices for how we can decorate and embellish this. But the first thing I have to figure out is which one of these DSPs I'm going to use. And I think, I really love this one, and it goes well with our winter theme. But this one does as well. And I have more options for ribbons and other embellishments. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use this. Again, it's just a 3-inch by 12-inch strip. And the first thing we need to do is we're going to have to attach it securely to our tin. For that, you know me, I love my tear and tape. And I want to make sure that I have a good adhesion with this, because that doesn't have square corners where I can take and do some scoring and folding to get sharp corners. It has more rounded corners, as you see here. And because of that, I want to make sure that I get a good adhesion all the way around so it's not popping away from the corners. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a couple of strips of tear and tape. And I'm putting it on the DSP rather than the tin. I will have a much better luck getting it straight, believe me, by doing it this way. I didn't take it all the way to the end. I'm not really worried about that because we'll have another strip of tear and tape that will seal the edges. So I left myself some room on this side to do that. And that I will take almost all the way to the edge. And I think I've got room on this side, so what the heck. Might as well put it down and make sure that I have good coverage. All right. Now I'm going to use my bone folder to just smush it down before I start peeling off my tear and tape. And the nice thing about this is, I mean, it doesn't matter what I use as my front or back, that I can start laying it down. I'm not going to peel the backing all the way off. I'm going to do it gradually as I go. And I'll show you why in just a minute. So let me get one part started. We want it fairly close to the bottom, but I like a little bit of the copper showing through just under the lid as well. I don't have that on there very straight, so let me try again. The nice thing about putting it on this tin is it comes away fairly easily as long as you haven't pressed it down. Let me try that again. You know me in straight lines. All right, let's try that. I think that's better. Okay, so this will end up being the back. Like I said, I have not peeled it all the way down. One of the things I want to do is make sure I do indeed have it on straight. And I'll be able to tell. Yep, that way I can match it up. I'll gradually start peeling this away and bringing it up all the way around, pressing it down as I go. But it's much easier to handle it if you're not taking all of the backing off. And I'm not even pressing it down yet, just in case I do have to make an adjustment. Smoothing it around those corners since they are rounded. Again, we have to be very aware that to make it adhere, you have to gently bend it around those corners. And there we go. So that was pretty easy, right? Let's talk about embellishing. You know that I love this set of dies from First Frost for creating not only my sentiment panel, but also my mat, because it does it absolutely perfectly. And I have a couple of choices here. I can mat it in copper, or because I've used the DSP that has some shaded spruce, I could mat it in shaded spruce. So I'm going to cut both frames. I'm going to cut it out of the copper, and then I'm also going to cut it out of the shaded spruce. That way we'll be able to tell which we like best. And this is the mat, so I don't have to worry. I haven't stamped my sentiment yet. I will cut out the sentiment panel until I've stamped it. So I've got our copper frame done. Right there. Now I want to do it in the shaded spruce. And like I said, this is just so that I can have some options. Let me offset that so it'll go through my big shot. As we all know, square and rectangles, you don't want to feed through your big shot head on. It's too hard on the pressure plate. Okay, so we've got that done. Put this away where I don't lose it. Now I'll be able to either use the copper, or we'll be able to easily see what it would look like with the shaded spruce, and that's pretty too. But I think we need to go ahead and stamp our sentiment. And we're going to pull out our heat tool and heat emboss this. So the sentiment is actually from First Frost. And it says, oh, I can't read upside down. So we'll see what it says in a minute. Always want to use your embossing buddy. Get rid of any static. I've got my heat tool plugged in and at the ready. So I'll ink this up with my Versamark. And you certainly could use your Stamparatus for this as well. I'm just going to use the lines on my grid paper to line everything up. And stamp it down. Remember to put the lid back on your Versamark before you pull out your embossing powder, because if you accidentally knock into it and spill it, yeah, it's not easy to get off your Versamark pad. Ask me, I know from experience. Okay, so I'll just put this through. I have a little spoon I can use, but for small pieces of paper like this, it works just as well to dip it. And I'm just very gently tapping. Now I still have a little bit of embossing powder where I don't want it. And this is where some soft bristle brushes will come in handy. I have a very fine tip one where I can just brush this away. I also have a thicker one for when I make a really big mess. All right, I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Now we go for the loud part. So you might want to turn your volume down. I like to do my heat embossing on this little cheese board that I found. It helps the paper stay a little bit flatter. It's not going to be completely flat, but okay, everybody plug your ears. Let it heat up for a beat of 4 or 5. And then take it to the paper. And I don't go around in circles. I just keep it in an area till I see it start to turn. And then I move on. And I'm just putting the paintbrush down there to hold the paper down, which also helps it not buckle as much. Pull it up and make sure you don't have any matte areas. They should all be shiny, and mine is. All right, that's it for the heat embossing for now. let this cool down for, oops, sorry about that, just a second. Don't want to put it through the Big Shot while it's hot because that can flatten out your embossed images. Okay, now this is going to go on here. Ooh, that's just big enough. And we'll cut out the sentiment panel with our Big Shot. I can never tell what is the cutting edge on. There it is. It's such a thin, thin piece. All right, come on, get it straight. There we go. And through the Big Shot it goes. And that's all the die cutting for tonight. So it was just those two pieces that I wanted to do. Put this with the other one so I don't lose it. And let's take a look at what we've got and decide which color we want on the mat. Hi, Amy. Thank you for joining this afternoon. All right. So we've got our tin. We've got our sentiment panel. We'll do a little more embellishing on this once we get it mounted. But the decision is, do we want to mat it with the shaded spruce, which is really nice, or do we want to continue with the copper theme? Oh, you know what I'm going to say. It's got to be the copper all the way. I knew that was going to happen, but I had to try the shaded spruce. So now what I can do, I'm going to use the multi-purpose liquid glue to adhere my sentiment panel to my copper foil mat. If I can keep the glue off my fingers. And I love using that die set from First Frost because it's the perfect width mat. I love a narrower mat, and this just does the trick. Okay. So that will get mounted on there. And then we have to make a decision on our ribbon. I'm not going to use the mini ruffled ribbon just because I want to be able to have the option for this to be given to a male friend or a female friend. So my other options are, since I didn't use the shaded spruce mat, it might be nice to use the metallic ribbon on here. Or, again, we can continue on with the copper theme and do the copper. But you know, in this case, I think that's too much copper. I know, I never thought I would say that. I love copper. So I think we will go ahead with our shaded spruce. And for this, always do a dry run before you cut your ribbon. How many times have you cut your ribbon too short? So do your dry run first and decide, do you just want it to be long enough for a single strand with your sentiment resting on it? I want a little bit more. I'm going to either tie a bow or a knot. So I made mine much larger. And I'm going to tie it first without adhering it down. That way I can reposition it as needed. See if I can tie a bow on camera. Wanting to keep the ribbon straight. So let's do it from this angle. Boy, it just wants to twist, doesn't it? But that's all right. We'll get it to straighten out later. not a bad bow, as bows go for me. Shorten it up just a little on this side. All right, not that little. I'll sit here and faff about with it forever. And it's loose right now, but remember, I haven't attached it down with glue dots or anything. So, is that the way I want to do it? And I do think I like that. I do think I like that a lot. Our other option would be, because you know we like options, to wrap it around twice. And this is why I cut my ribbon long. Now I can't tie a bow with it this way, but that gives a little more visual interest. Actually, I think I'm liking it that way. So let's do this. Get out the old glue dots. And I'll put the cut edge in front because we know that our sentiment panel is going to be there. So it will hide the cut ends. And then I'll wrap it around twice. I'm going to attach that end down with the glue dot, and then we can take and spread those out. All right. And we also know that our sentiment panel, when it goes down, is also going to keep pressure on it. Okay, I think I'm liking that. So there will be our sentiment panel. I am going to use dimensionals for that, if I can find them. What I do with my dimensionals, there they are. Just so it doesn't impede the ribbon or make it buckle up at all, I'll use 4. 1 in each corner. Now there's so much more embellishing you could do. You could take and die cut out some sprigs from the winter woods and place them behind the sentiment panel sticking out, or just about anything. Vellum leaves would also look pretty. You can really decorate this up. I want to keep it, like I said, pretty simple, not put too much on it. That way it works for me to give it to a guy friend. All right, so we'll come back and finish embellishing that. And I probably will stick a glue dot or 2 in the back here, just to make sure it doesn't move about too much, because it's pretty loose. But I'll come back and do that in a little bit, because I did say we were going to make a card. I thought I would do one more of the 3.5 by 3.5 cards, so you could see how I did them, as well as pull in that Rooted in Nature stamp set. So we've got one from Winter Woods, one from Lovely as a Tree. Now we're going to use the Rooted in Nature, and I've got the pine tree for that. Oops. I am going to stick with embossing it in copper, although you certainly could stamp it in shaded spruce, would look just as nice. But since I've done my other cards that way, I might as well continue on. Again, use your embossing buddy. ink up your stamp. And since this is so big, I'm actually going to bring the pad to the block, and that way I can make sure I get an even coverage of ink. Bring in I have my embossing powder ready. Oh, where'd my scratch paper go? There it is. Because I probably will end up coming off the card just a little bit. I love how organic that makes it look. So we'll position this right way up. Hope my head doesn't knock the camera, but down she goes. So as you can see, the very, very corner of it is coming off of that little note card. I will put a sentiment on this, but I like to go ahead and emboss one area at a time. It makes it easier for me to line things up. If you're using your Stamparatus, you certainly can get everything set up ahead of time so that you're only having to stamp once. All right, that looks pretty good. I got a couple little flecks, pardon me, that I'm going to brush off. Excuse me, darn it. Allergies are bad today. Just be very careful if you're using a brush. Because if you accidentally knock up against your stamped image, it will remove the embossing powder from it. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Let's get our cheese board back in here. And bring in our heat tool. And I always let it heat up a little bit before I bring it to the paper. Again, that just helps keep it from warping as much because it's melting the embossing powder much more quickly once you have it up to temp. Pick it up and make sure you don't have any matte areas. You want it all to be shiny. Mine is. So now I'm ready to move on to the sentiment. And for the sentiment, I've chosen the same one that I used on the other one, which is Thinking of You This Season. It'll fit nicely there. Embossing Buddy, because I've got my little fingerprints all over it. Line it up. If your paper does warp, by the way, it will flatten back out once the paper cools down. All right. Got that stamped down, and I can see already I stamped it upside down. So what I'm going to do is dry that and stamp over it. And we're going to hope that works. Because we certainly don't want our sentiment to be upside down. Okay. Try that again. Just let that cool off a little bit. And you want to run your fingers and make sure you don't feel any tackiness. If it's dry, then you should be able to proceed. All right, so it goes this way, Linda. You also could put the sentiment down here, wherever you like it. Okay, fingers crossed that that worked. And it's only paper, right? It's only paper. Oh, I got a lot of wiping off to do here. So you really don't want to stamp over that Versamark because it looks like, even though I dried it, it's still picked up the powder in some areas. I'll see if I can clean it off here. But you would definitely do as I say, not as I do, right? I think this is probably going to end up a mess. But I tell you, these little brushes really come in handy for getting this out of the way. Yep, it's going to look a mess. I'll go ahead and heat emboss it, but I can tell you, it's going to look a mess. So that one we'll probably have to do over. Probably if I had used my embossing buddy on it, it would have been fine. But hot. Well, it doesn't look great, but you get the idea. I might be able to stick some little embellishments on there. You also could stamp another smaller tree over here to help fill it in if it bothers you to have that white space. It doesn't really bother me that there's white space there. All right, but that's how we go in and we do the cards that go into our tin. So I'll just take and put these back in. I made the envelopes with my envelope punch board. It takes a 6x6 sheet of paper, and copy paper is a little too thin. So what I ended up doing was we had leftover from the shop when the print shop, when we had it open, we had some, it's called digital quality paper, which is about twice the thickness of regular copy paper. And that worked really well for my envelopes. They will all fit in here. I do have to, because of the envelopes, I put them in at an angle because the envelopes are just a little bit too wide to sit flush. But as you can see, it will hold even more cards than that. So the last thing, a little bit more embellishment. Make it look pretty, make it look holiday. Oh, sorry, I bumped the camera, gang. They still haven't gotten the internet cable run into my craft room, so having to do it all from here. I'm going to take some pearls. I don't have the metallic pearls yet. I believe those come in gold, silver, and maybe bronze. But I can get the same effect. Hi, Karen. By using my bronze blends pen and our basic pearl jewels. I will pick, what do I want? A larger one. And just with the broad end of the blends going around the pearl. You want to make sure you go all the way to the bottom. And then I think I'll do a medium-sized one. and an itty bitty one, because you know me, I like 3. And I get to use my new tool. I was so excited to get this because of this one thing, the spatula. You know how I struggle with being able to get things up like pearls and sequins and things. That is just so darn easy. So I picked it up easily. I can place it down and put it where I want. No worries. I do like this. I'm still learning with the smaller ones how to get them on there the best way. So I've got one there. Let's put one up here. And then my itty bitty one, we'll put over here to the side. I certainly could cut off another length of ribbon and put a bow on it. But like I said, I really want to leave this kind of gender neutral so that I can give it to a male friend or a female friend. You also could put something on the top if you like. Ooh, hang on. What about our copper little Christmas or winter elements? So you certainly could put one on top of there if you wanted to. What do you guys think? Yes, yes? Should we? You're right, Amy. I should have tried done it with the sand eraser, but like I said, I'm not even in my craft room. I think I like that. So I am going to attach it down. And what's the easiest way to attach these down, I found? Well, with your glue dots. Just 3 glue dots or so, and try to put them, I put them more towards the center so they have something to really grab onto. So I'm putting them, let me show you, right about there. And we'll do one there. So I've got 3 of them on there. And those glue dots won't even show up. The nice thing about these is that the spikes bend upwards, so it gives it a bit more dimension, which I really like in these. All right. I may need to go back and put one more in there later, but I think that's holding pretty well. So glad I got those. I'll be able to use them on all kinds of things. All right, ladies. Well, that is our decorated tin along with our 3x3 cards. Any questions? Okie dokie then. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. I will be posting this video to YouTube. I will also put it on the blog with all of the measurements and supplies that I use. So you can go there to get that information. I'll let y'all get back to your busy weekends, which I hope are going well. And we will see you all Tuesday night for our Tuesday night series. Thanks, everyone. Bye, y'all.